make an effort, a serious effort, and have the intention of Hajj, though there might be restrictions or limitations at time, and people, as long as they have made that intention and they have that willingness and that, in fact, eagerness to go and purify in the journey of Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts, even if we don't make it physically to Hajj and pilgrimage. Also, today marks the marriage anniversary of Fatimah al-Zahra salamullah alayha and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayha afdal al-salawat wa tahiyyat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We have a number of ahadith about this marriage and the importance of this marriage that confirm that the marriage was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from God. In fact, many would come and ask for the hand of the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially because of how pure she is and how pure this family is. He's a prophet of God, but also because he is now the head of the state. You know, he was, at the time, he was the head of the state and this Muslim ummah that was expanding. So marrying his daughter, similar to marrying daughters of any important individual in this world, would have its benefits according to their minds and their some of them who were looking for this kind of benefits. However, for some it may have been the spiritual side as well as the worldly benefits that they gain out of marrying the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. Nonetheless, he did not give his daughter to any of them, and that was surprising to some, because in Arabia in general, and in Islam in specific, when somebody comes and proposes, unless you have a good reason to say no, you should not say no. إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ, we have a hadith about the fact that if somebody comes and proposes and their akhlaq, their Islamic ethics, or they are ethical people, good people, and they are perhaps religiously, they are also adhering to God's law and so on, they pray, they fast, they help people and so on, then you should give them, you should marry your daughter off to them. You should not say no to them and reject, otherwise it would be almost like disobedience to God. In some ahadith we are told. So the Prophet ﷺ, who was teaching people about being flexible and easy, and if somebody proposes to give them and not say no, and who was preaching to people about Quran and the significance of marrying, your children off and so on, as well as being an Arab, where saying no to somebody would be actually not just rejection of the individual, in some cases rejection of his tribe or branch of the tribe. So it's almost like you're saying, we have a problem with you. And yet every time they would come and ask for the hand of Fatimah al-Zahra salamullah alayha, the Prophet would say no. However, he would follow that up by saying her matter is with God. Other people's matters, yes, I always tell you, marry your daughters off, and if any other person, including some of his cousins whose matters were left in his hands, he married them off very conveniently, including the adopted, including one of his cousins who was given to him as a gift from her family, Zainab, who was given to the Prophet as a gift, hoping that her family were hoping that he would marry her, yet he married her to Zayd ibn Haritha, who was adopted by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he made marriage easy, and he encouraged people to make marriage easy, and he himself practiced that with those whose affairs were in his hands. People would come to him, Ya Rasulullah, I have a daughter, I want a good husband for her. He would look into the people who are part of the congregation, regular to Jama'ah, therefore they're good people. Those who are regular to congregation, that itself is a good sign of them being good people in the eyes of God and in the court of God. Therefore, he would marry them off easily. But his daughter, he would say no, and he would follow that by saying, her matter is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with God. It's not in my hands. Her matter is with God. We have numerous hadith about that, until very modestly, with a lot of shyness and with a lot of hesitance, Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi came and asked for the hand of Fatima salamullah alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was extremely happy when he heard that. Not just hesitant, not saying her matters with God, because he already knew what the command from God was. He was extremely happy, and he asked his daughter, out of respect for his daughter, he asked his daughter. He knew that she would not say no if he said, this is what I want for you, but he asked, teaching us also to consult our children when it comes to their marriages, our daughters when it comes to their marriages. Arranged marriage is okay as long as they are okay with it, and in the couple themselves, they are happy with it, they're okay with it. If it's imposed upon them, then there is a problem with that. And there are cultures who still impose, it's either your cousin or nobody else. That is a problem. Imam Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he came and asked his daughter. He told her that Ali alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdalu salawat wa tahiyyat, has come and is asking for your hand, and she was silent. She did not respond, and he knew it is not a no. Her response was her silence. Sukutuha ridaha. She was silent out of shyness and modesty again, not that she was not pleased or happy. And therefore he said that her silence, her lack of response in this situation is a sign. He knows his daughter. He says this is her acceptance, and therefore he married them off, and he said they were married off in the heavens before they were married in this world. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this occasion, I want to remind mu'mineen and mu'minat of a very important factor or fact. We remember them, and for us, it's a pleasure to speak of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is a pleasure to speak of his daughter. It's a pleasure to speak of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wasalamu alayhi. Speaking about them makes us happy, gives us pleasure, and we celebrate them, we remember them. That is all important, that's all well and good, but that's not what is significant if it is not followed by following them, by making sure that we are living our lives by their example. They are, for us, role models. They are examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares in the Holy Quran that I gave you the best example in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He is the best example for you. He is not just an individual for you and I to remember and talk about, like some who in Jahiliyyah would say, my grandfather was this and that, and my great-grandfather was this and that. In fact, Imam Ali alayhi salam says in a beautiful poem, he says that don't keep on saying my roots and my background and my ancestors. لا تقل أصلي وفصلي أبدا إنما أصل الفتى ما قد كسب. Your roots are what you have earned for yourself. For every one of us, what matters is what we earn for ourselves. They're good. In Farsi, there's a similar saying that brings it one step closer. It says, let's assume that your father was a great righteous person. گیرم پدر تو بود فاضل. از فضل پدر تو را چه حاصل. What have you gained from their goodness, from your father's goodness? Your father was the best man, he was this, he was that. Okay, well and good. We're not debating that, especially if he's passed away. We don't want to discuss those who have passed away. But what have you earned from him? What did you learn from him? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is our godfather. Is him and Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhima are the fathers of this ummah. He says to Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, Ya Ali, ana wa ant abawa hadhihi al-ummah. They are our fathers. What have we gained from them? We discuss them, we remember them, we celebrate their happiness, we celebrate their marriage. That's all well and good, but what have you gained from it? Amirul Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamu alayhi is the best husband besides Rasulullah, obviously, besides his teacher and master Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The best in this ummah, in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the best husband is Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Imam alayhi salam, after the Prophet. Best husband. Best wife, Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. What are you in terms of a husband or a wife? Because Rasulullah ﷺ says the best ones amongst you are the best ones to their wives. خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِنِسَائِهِ. What have you learned from Rasulullah? What have you learned from Amirul Mu'mineen alayhim salam? What have we learned from them? That's what matters. They were examples, they were role models. What do I know about them and how much do I put into practice? Talk is cheap. When it comes to practice, how much of their lifestyle do I know? Which is a very important factor. This is why we discuss them. This is why we get together and remember them. To learn about their lifestyle. To learn about their teachings and their words and their actions. Their teaching by action. We learn all this. How much of it have we put into practice? That is what matters. If we put it into practice, then we will have the best lives. The best lives as a husband, as a wife in the family, and the best life as a community, as a society, because the family is the smallest union of the society. If it is healthy, the rest of the society is healthy. And if it's broken, the rest of the society is broken. So we can take steps towards the betterment of our society by bettering our family union, our family circumstances and conditions. If I'm a good husband, I am helping the society become a good society. This is how it works. As simple as it may sound. Small steps that fix the entire society. Me fixing my family. And this is very important for every one of us. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was good to the ummah, cared for the ummah. His Amirul Mu'mineen sallallahu alaihi similarly, they cared for everybody, but it started from home. They were the best husbands. They were the best fathers, they were the best brothers, they were the best, family members. As a member of their family, they were the best. And that spread further into their community, into the neighborhood, into the society, in fact, in their case, into humanity. Generations after generations are still benefiting from the goodness that spread from the justice and the beauty from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the example of his family, Amirul Mu'mineen and Fatima Zahra salamullah alayhima. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity to learn from their lessons, from their lives, from their examples, from their words, and put them into practice to create a better society, better human community, inshallah. We ask him to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد المصطفى وعلى علي المرتضى وفاطمة الزهراء وخديجة الكبرى والحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي التقي وعلي بن محمد النقي والحسن بن علي العسكري والحجة القائم المهدي الإمام المنتظر صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم وال من والاهم وعاد من عاداهم وانصر من نصرهم واخذل من خذلهم والعن من ظلمهم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير. عباد الله اتقوا الله وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. Dear mu'minin and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, once again, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jumu'ah mubarakah upon everyone. In this second sermon, I remind myself and my brothers and sisters of the provision of taqwa. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله فإنها زاد المبلغ. It is what we need to reach our destination. It is the month of the Hijjah, and I began in the first sermon with the first ayat of Surah Al-Hajj, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the beginning of this surah reminds us of taqwa. Ya ayyuhan nasu ttaqu rabbakum. O people, everybody, be considerate and concerned about your duty to the Almighty God, as the day of judgment is a great day. I'm paraphrasing here. It is, the ayah mentions the shaking, zalzala. You know, it shakes, it brings a lot of basically turmoil and trouble, in fact, and it makes people worried to the point that even a nursing mother would run away from her child. يَوْمَ تَرَوْنَهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضَعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. It's a very difficult day, the day of judgment, and therefore we need to prepare for it, and that is with taqwa. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالُ وَلَا بَنُونَ. It is not wealth, it is not children that would matter and benefit us on that day. It is good hearts, good deeds that stem from good hearts is taqwa. It is the heart that's the home of taqwa. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. God accepts from those whose actions, they do good deeds. Their actions are based on a good heart, a purified heart that is doing things sincerely for the sake of God. If they refrain from sins, it's not because they're scared of people. It is because they are concerned about God and the pleasure of God and not displeasing Him. If they do good deeds, it's not because they want to please anybody and impress anybody, it's because they want God to be pleased with them. This is in fact taqwa, and this is what matters. A quick note on the beginning of this month, as some mu'mineen have asked me, and I wanted to clarify on what's going on basically. There is, as we know, we have scholars who have, they accept visibility of the moon or the sighting of the moon as long as it's seen in a place that you share the nights with. There are scholars who accept the sighting of the moon as long as it's seen anywhere in the world. There are scholars who accept the sighting of the moon as long as it's possibly visible. Possibly visible. We have that among some scholars. And we have some governments or some countries and their paid scholars who don't have necessarily a criteria. They decide whenever they like and they just make announcements, and their judges and scholars, they sign under their decision or they stamp it with approval. None of that is our position. Most of these scholars in the school of Ahlul Bayt, most of them, I would say, at least today, I'm not looking at the ones who have passed away. Today's scholars, most of them, especially the most famous ones, amongst them the one who is mostly followed in this community, Atlas Istani, their verdict is that you have to sight the moon in your area, in your city. The only time you can look at someone else's visibility of the moon is when it gives you confidence that you could have seen the moon. Okay, so their verdict is you have to see it in your city. There are multiple articles and studies that have been done by great scholars. I've done extensive research when it comes to the ruling and the roots of the rulings and the ahadith behind the ruling. And it's the most sensible ruling, in fact, and the most resembling to the ruling of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, or the method of their verdicts and decisions at their time. In the sense that at their time, they insisted on their people not to worry about other cities and to focus on the fact that, okay, I can see it, my month starts, I don't see it, I wait until I complete the iddah or the number of days of the month, and I start the new month. Today we have technology that helps us determine the possibility of seeing the moon. In some cases they say you could definitely see the moon. And that gives some certainty. Myself, I gain certainty when they tell me that you are in a zone that definitely the moon is visible. The number of hours, the angle of the moon, the brightness of the moon, some factors that give us certainty that I could see the moon. That suffices. For me, if I'm in that zone and it's cloudy, I can't see the moon, it suffices. However, we often wait to see somebody nearby or in a similar situation to have seen the moon. This month, however, they were not able to see the moon, except late in the night there were reports that in San Diego the moon was sighted, and some verified these reports. Some of our scholars, when I spoke to them, they were hesitant about that sighting itself. Nonetheless, others verified it. If we go back to the original ruling of these scholars, the sighting of the moon in another city has to give us confidence and certainty that I could see the moon in my area. Had it not been for the weather conditions, I would have been able to see the moon in my area. Because I didn't see it, they saw the moon. Because of the circumstances they saw, I have certainty. I honestly, based on my experience and my knowledge scientifically in terms of the possibility of visibility of the moon, I was not confident and I would not have certainty for sure. And I challenge anybody to say to me that the visibility in San Diego, the furthest point in roughly, far west, east, far west, south of United States, that their visibility would give me certainty that I could have seen the moon. It was not seen elsewhere, just them. It is very, very vague. And لا تبطل اليقين بالشك. We have certainty that we could not see the moon here. I would not go with some doubt I could possibly see it, since not even science could tell me that you certainly could see it. And this is my basis and this is my advice for mu'mineen and mu'minat. Nonetheless, the scholars have given the report that for those who are content with that sighting, they can go with it. If you have certainty, by all means you can go with it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to return our Imam so we don't have all these doubts and we don't have any of these issues, and we are able to determine the beginning of the month and days of Eid without doubts and without any controversies and debates. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who listen to what's said and follow what's best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على